Let me start with the news that has just come in. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Iran has been urgently signaling that it wants to end hostilities and to resume talks over its nuclear program. According to the journal, they have been sending messages to Israel and the United States via Arab intermediaries. Have you received that message from the Iranians?
Well, not directly, but I'm not surprised. I mean, they want to continue to have these fake talks in which they lie, they cheat. They string the U.S. along, and we have very solid intel on that. But of course, they want to keep on building their nuclear weapons and building their mass ballistic missile arsenal, which they're firing at our people. They want to continue to create the two existential threats against Israel while they're talking. That's not going to happen. We're not at the 11th hour. We're at the 12th hour, and we stopped. We acted to secure the life of the nation, and we're going to continue until we remove the two existential threats, the nuclear threat and the threat of 20,000 ballistic missiles that are equivalent to 2 nuclear bombs. So they want to stop and keep it. But we are committed to removing those threats.
So I think what I hear you saying quite clearly is there will be no end to the Israeli bombing of Iran until you have accomplished your objective here. You're not going to stop for peace talks.
Well, look, we had the peace talks. We gave it a chance. We've, clenched our teeth. We did everything we could to enable President Trump to negotiate the desired result, and that would have been preferable for us and I think for everyone. But we saw in the course of the negotiations, while they were negotiating with the United States, the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, tweeted almost every day, "Death to Israel." The talks were merely a facade. And we absolutely, if it could be achieved with the negotiations, fine. But it wasn't being achieved, so we had to act to safeguard our existence. You would do the same.
But over the weekend, we heard from President Trump on Truth Social say Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal. We will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. So if President Trump asked you to stop the bombing campaign to resume these talks, would you do it?
Well, President Trump has been a great leader of the world, and a great leader and a great friend of Israel. And he put forward the terms very clearly in the negotiations. He said, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And in order for it not to have a nuclear weapon, it cannot have the capacity to enrich uranium, which is the prerequisite for nuclear weapons. Iran refused. It just refuses all the time. It cheats, and it continues to try to weaponize the enriched uranium they already have. They have 9 atom bombs worth of enriched uranium. They're working secretly, as we shared with the United States. They're working secretly to rapidly weaponize this. In a few months, they would have nuclear bombs. That's what they want to do. They want to continue stringing the U.S. along, build up those weapons. They don't want to seat at the table. They want to blow up the table. Well, specifically, they want to blow up Israel and purchase time. And I think the U.S. shares the intel. I know they share the intel because we share intel with each other. If it's fake talks, obviously not. If Iran will relinquish the means to destroy our country, then obviously it's preferable to anything else. But that hasn't happened so far, and frankly, I doubt it's going to happen now.
But he said Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal. How do you explain that disconnect? He seems very optimistic, in fact, seeming like he wants you to get back to the table and get back to the table now. You're saying there's no getting back to the table until the goals of the bombing campaign are achieved.
Well, if the goals could be achieved through negotiations, fine. I said that to the president when I saw him in Washington. That didn't happen in the 2 months of negotiations that President Trump gave them. Right now, they thought that they could get away with it. They found that our very decisive and very precise military action against their nuclear program, against their ballistic missile program, is effective. So now they want to stop it and continue on the side to continue to develop those 2 means of mass death that are meant to wipe Israel off the map. And this is a battle, that we have to assure is won. If it could be won diplomatically, fine. Frankly, it didn't happen diplomatically, and we had to act because we're not going to put our neck on a nuclear, to a nuclear knife and let them destroy us. We're fighting this larger war against this oppressive regime that has oppressed the Iranian people for 46 years, that has spread mayhem, violence, and terror throughout the Middle East and well beyond. They tried to assassinate President Trump twice. They tried to kill me twice. They actually had their proxies shoot a drone right into my bedroom window. They're targeting every one of our ministers, key ministers, for death. So they speak a good line, but they don't walk the walk. And again, we have to remove that threat, and I think it's a larger battle. It's a battle of civilization against barbarism. This regime is the cult of death. Don't make any mistakes about it. And sometimes, the forces of civilization have to act before it's too late. We did, and we're going to remove those threats against our existence one way or the other. The Jewish people haven't traveled over time this great odyssey of 3,500 years with some of the worst tragedies meted out to any people during their existence. We're not going to have a second Holocaust. We'll do whatever is necessary to prevent that. And President Trump has been a terrific friend and a terrific leader, and I trust his judgment. And we have, together, we know what needs to be done in order to assure that those two twin threats to our very survival, to the survival and the peace of the world, are removed.
So are you going to target the Supreme Leader?
Look, we're doing what we need to do. I'm not going to get into the details, but we've targeted their top nuclear scientists. It's basically Hitler's nuclear team. We got them. We still have work to do on other sites. We have targeted their ballistic missile manufacturing facilities. Understand this. You see these bombs. You saw a single bomb. It's a one-ton bomb, John, dropping on Tel Aviv and other places, killing men, women, and children. They're deliberately targeting our population. We're not doing that. We're targeting their military sites, their nuclear sites, their ballistic missile sites, so they don't have 20,000 of these that no country could survive with. Yeah, they want to continue stringing us along, but there's a limit, because if we don't act now, there won't be a 13th hour. So we have to act. But what I'm saying is that we're not merely protecting ourselves. We're protecting everybody. We're protecting our Arab neighbors with whom we want to expand the peace, as we did under President Trump's leadership in the Abraham Accords. That will be possible if Iran is defanged. We're also protecting the world. They have ballistic missiles that can now reach deep into Europe and soon could reach the United States. And imagine what this regime that caused death to America every time, that bombed your American embassies, that murdered 241 Marines in Beirut, that killed and injured thousands of American servicemen in Iraq and Afghanistan, that tried to blow up a restaurant in Washington, that burns the American flag. You want these people to have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to your cities? Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good against evil. America should and does stand with the good. That's what President Trump is doing, and I deeply appreciate his support.
But U.S. officials tell us that the president flatly rejected a plan, an opportunity that the Israelis had to take out the Supreme Leader. Do you understand his concern? My understanding is his concern is that this would escalate the conflict beyond where it is already.
It's not going to escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict. We've had half a century of conflict spread by this regime that terrorizes everyone in the Middle East, has bombed the Aramco oil fields in Saudi Arabia, is spreading terrorism and subversion and sabotage everywhere. That's the forever war is what Iran wants. And they're bringing us to the brink of nuclear war. In fact, what Israel is doing is preventing this, bringing an end to this aggression. And we can only do so by standing up to the forces of evil. Look, democracies have had to learn this lesson. They faced a tyrannical regime, a radical, fanatic regime. For 40 years, I've been saying, actually 3 years after the establishment of this radical Islamist Ayatollah regime in Tehran, I said that the greatest danger, not only to the survival of my country, but to the peace of the world, is Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. And they are on the brink of achieving that. So imagine what they're doing now without nuclear weapons. chanting death to America without nuclear weapons. Imagine what will happen if they had nuclear weapons and the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, to deliver it to every place on Earth. We're preventing the most terrific war imaginable, and we're bringing peace to the Middle East. And I believe that after our action, we're going to be able to bring the Middle East to new heights that nobody even imagined. You know, make the Middle East great again. Make it truly great. Expand the peace with the Abraham Accords. Expand them beyond our belief and imagination. Have trade routes, communication routes, energy routes. Have trade, tourism between Israel and our Arab neighbors, just as we've done under the Abraham Accords. All of that will be possible if we take away, defang Iran from its capacity to threaten everyone, not only us with our existence, but the regimes and our Arab neighbors and everyone else. This will bring the peace that we all hope for. And this will bring also the assurance of survival and a future for Israel and everyone else.
So it sounds to me like you're saying you disagreed with President Trump on this, saying that taking out the supreme leader would be a mistake. What else would you like from the United States? I mean, the United States could provide.
Well, John, I wouldn't rush to conclusions. Yeah.
Well, he said that it would escalate the conflict. You said it wouldn't. And now I'm asking you, what more would you like from President Trump, from the United States here? Do you expect that the U.S. Air Force will help you take out that facility in Fordo?
We've gotten tremendous help from President Trump. American pilots are shooting down drones that are aimed at our cities, along with our pilots. We have 2 THAAD batteries in Israel that are helping bring down these murderous missiles. We have Aegis ships that are helping us, and it's deeply appreciated. As far as what else America will do, that's up to President Trump. He will do what's in the best interest of the United States. But it's important to understand that we deeply appreciate his help and the support of the great majority of the American people, because they understand what we're fighting against. We're fighting against a regime that hates us both, that is trying to assassinate us both, that is trying to bring death and destruction throughout the Middle East and to the world. And sometimes you have to take a stand. You take a stand with the good against evil, and that's precisely what America is doing under President Trump. It's also bringing freedom, possibility of freedom, to the people of Iran, the long-suffering, brilliant people of Iran. And you know, they're murdering their women. You remember that brave woman who was shot to death, left to bleed to death on the sidewalk in Iran because she uncovered her hair. She didn't cover her hair. Well, I have a woman pilot in my staff who worked on my staff, who's now flying over the skies of Tehran. We control the skies of Tehran. And she's trying to do the things that will prevent this regime from continuing this horrible subjugation of the Iranian people and the rest of the neighborhood, the rest of the world. That's the difference. We're fighting for freedom, our own survival, our own freedom, but also for the freedom of everyone else.
Let me ask you, your defense minister, Israel Katz, said that if the Iranians continue to target Israeli civilians, that, quote, Tehran will burn. What does that mean?
Well, I think he made it clear, because it wasn't clear, and he clarified that what we're doing is targeting regime sites, nuclear sites, military sites, and ballistic missile sites that are embedded in Tehran. Our pilots are very precise. So unlike the Iranian criminal regime, we're telling the people, leave the zone of battle so that you're not hurt. And in fact, they are leaving, and that's important. And they're evacuating their homes, and that's because of the mad fanaticism, this anti-Semitic mad fanaticism of the Iranian supreme leader. He's like a modern Hitler. He just will not stop. But we're going to make sure that he doesn't have the means to carry out his threats.
And let me ask you one more thing. You mentioned the support of the American people. There are some prominent supporters of President Trump who say that the United States should not be involved at all. Let me give you, for example, Tucker Carlson, of course, has been close to President Trump for quite some time, speaks to him frequently. He said the United States should not at any level participate in war with Iran. No funding, no American weapons, no troops on the ground. There is another option. Drop Israel, let them fight their own wars. What do you say to those supporters of President Trump, some of his supporters, who say the United States should not be involved in any way?
We're not just fighting our enemy, we're fighting your enemy. For God's sake, they chant, death to Israel, death to America. We're simply on their way. And this could reach America soon. I mean, to have these mad mullahs who are committed to destroying us in order to destroy you, to say that they should have nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles to deliver them to you, and to say that that's not your interest. Well, we're fighting this war. We're taking the action. America is supporting us in defense, deeply, deeply appreciated. But this is a threat to the entire world. It's a threat to Israel, as I said, to our Arab neighbors, to Europe, to America. They chant death to America. It's though this is not your business. This is not myopia. This is utter blindness. I mean, sometimes you have to take a stand against evil. And that's what the American people instinctively understand, most of them, I have to say. And that's what President Trump understands. We cannot let that happen. We're certainly going to protect ourselves. But in so doing, John, we're protecting everyone else. And we appreciate, deeply appreciate, the help we're getting from the United States of America under President Trump's leadership.
And no peace talks at this point. No peace talks till the military objectives are met.
Well, we're going to see if Iran is serious about dismantling their nuclear program, dismantling their missile capacity, dismantling the terror axis that terrorizes everybody in the Middle East and well beyond. If they agree to all of that, obviously, the war could end. If they lay down their arms, they lay down their weapons of mass death, that's different. But so far they haven't done it. And I think the important thing is to make sure that the result is achieved. It's not the means, it's the result. The result that has to be achieved is that Iran does not have the capacity to develop nuclear weapons to destroy the state of Israel, as they promised to do, while they're negotiating, to create a ballistic missile arsenal that is equivalent to several atomic bombs while they're negotiating. That's not going to happen. And of course, to continue the proxy war that was meant to basically snuff out the life of the Jewish state. We said never again. This is something we've said since the Holocaust. The Jewish people have suffered under the Iranian proxies the worst massacre since the Holocaust. Now they're planning a nuclear holocaust. We're not going to let them get away with it. If you can achieve it through different means, that's fine. But it's the result that has to count. The result has to be assured, and that's what I'm looking at. David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, was tasked with an extraordinary decision to declare a Jewish state after 2,000 years. And he did. I'm tasked with the great mission of assuring the existence of the Jewish state. And we made that crucial decision in the nick of time. And of course, I think that we're successful because our brave pilots, our brave soldiers, our brave people, under this blitz, it's like the spirit of the blitz of the British during World War II. This is the spirit we have now in Israel. Yes, we're getting bombed, but the people are saying, keep it up. Do what you have to do to remove the threat. One or another, that threat has to be removed. And President Trump said, Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. It cannot have enrichment. He's absolutely right. That result has to be assured, and we're working together to assure it. America, by giving us the means of defense, we, by doing what we have to do to remove those twin threats to our existence. We're very, very resolute about it. The people are resolute, and I call this operation, this historic operation, Rising Lion, because it said in the Torah, in our Bible, the people shall rise like lions, and they've risen like lions. And I can't tell you how proud I am of our people, of our brave soldiers, and of our many friends around the world who know that what we're doing is right and important to safeguard the future of civilization against these barbarians.
And we are out of time, but very quickly, how much longer do you expect this to go on? Are we talking days? Are we talking weeks? Or are we talking a longer war?
John, I have my own assessments, but it'll go on as long as it's necessary to remove those twin evil threats. I think we're well on our way to success. I think what we've shown has amazed the world. Just the precision, the boldness, the willingness to act to save our country, but to act in a judicious and precise manner that is completely opposite to the indiscriminate bombing of civilians that Iran is doing. We're not doing that. We're doing the opposite. But I can tell you that we're very successful. We're confident, not overly confident, confident, firm, confident in our ability to remove those threats. So one way or the other, those threats will be eliminated.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, America. Thank you, President Trump.
And John Karl joins me now for more on that interview. John, the Prime Minister really seemed to want to get the point across that he sees this as a war not just for the good of Israel, but for the good of the world. So first, just your quick take. What sticks out to you from the conversation you just had with Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, several things, including that, Diane. Look, it's not just making that point for an American audience. It's making that point for an American audience that supports Donald Trump and doesn't support the idea of America getting involved in Israel. This is what I mean by that. There is a significant portion of Donald Trump's movement, of the MAGA movement, that is adamantly opposed to the U.S. getting involved in another conflict in the Middle East. Remember, one of the central promises that Donald Trump made was no more forever wars. And there are some prominent figures, prominent supporters of Donald Trump, including people like Tucker Carlson, like Charlie Kirk, like Steve Bannon, who have been very loud and very vocal in saying, Israel, this is their fight, it's not our fight. So he's using their language when he says, I understand America first, but I don't understand America dead. And that's what Iran wants. They say death to America. So when he is saying that, he is speaking to Donald Trump in a way, saying don't listen to those supporters on your side who are against involvement with Israel on this. Listen to us. You've been Israel's best friend. Continue to support us because ultimately this is not just a threat to Israel, it's a threat to the United States.
You also asked him a few different times about the level of U.S. support and involvement. He touted U.S. support several times, even added one more thank you in there at the end, but he didn't seem to want to get too specific on that.
Right, because the ground truth here, and there's been some great reporting, Rachel Scott has done some great reporting on this, others as well, that Israel wants more than they're getting out of the United States. Israel would like to see the United States involved in this air campaign for a very specific reason. That is, one of the primary nuclear and uranium enrichment sites in Iran is called Fordo, and it's buried almost a half a mile below the earth. It's impossible to destroy unless you have very large bombs that can penetrate that far below, the kind of bombs that can be delivered by a U.S. Air Force B-2 bomber and what they call the Moab bomb, the mother of all bombs, a very large bunker-busting bomb that is believed could penetrate deep enough to destroy that Fordo facility. The Israelis clearly want the American help, would like to see the Americans help them at least eliminate that one very important nuclear facility. And so far, as we have reported, the United States has not offered that assistance. But publicly, he knows that he needs the United States, and the best way to keep the United States at least supportive of Iran in terms of fending off the Iranian supporting of Israel by fending off those Iranian counterattacks, you need to keep Donald Trump on board. So he's praising Donald Trump every few minutes in that interview, although if you read between the lines, he clearly would like a little more out of Donald Trump in the United States than he's getting.
Mr. Netanyahu also says they would have preferred to negotiate with Iran, but that the peace talks were a facade. Is there any indication they'll resume talks anytime soon?
I think zero indication of that. I asked just before the interview started, we did the interview just a short while ago, just before the interview started, the Wall Street Journal alerted breaking news that, according to the Journal, Iran has sent word to Israel and the United States through Arab intermediaries that they want to cease hostilities and to resume talks over its nuclear program. So that story just broke. And it was the way I started the interview was asking Prime Minister Netanyahu, so what about that? Are you open to stopping your air campaign against Iran so you can resume these nuclear talks? And he was quite clear that he had zero interest in that he believes that the nuclear talks are simply a way to delay and to allow them to move forward with developing nuclear weapons. So, look, Donald Trump, this is another place where you have clear, very different messages between the Israelis and between the United States. Donald Trump is saying that he believes that peace can happen very soon. He believes you could have a nuclear deal with Iran now, probably even better opportunity than before. And Netanyahu clearly thinks that is not going to happen and is unwilling to stop the war. I asked him another question, Diane. I asked him, if Donald Trump asked you to stop this air campaign, to allow nuclear talks to resume, would you go along with that? He didn't answer. But if you read between the lines, I don't think that he is going to stop this military campaign until he is convinced that the nuclear program is destroyed. And by the way, the missile program as well.
All right. Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl. John, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I'm Diane Macedo. The news never stops, and neither do we. We have a lot more news right after the break. Stay with us.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas,
Edinburgh, Scotland.
from Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home? We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Splintered houses and splintered lives. The magnitude of the devastation. You're streaming ABC News Live. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi. Santa Fe, New Mexico.